Yeah, well, Dawkins, in the little video that I respond to, he gave some reasons why not to believe God exists. And one of the points that he made is that there are no reasons, and that was one of the reasons. The one reason is that there are none, and therefore it's up to the onus is on the theist, not on the atheist, to explain why they don't believe in God. And I just responded, well, actually, there are reasons on the table, and if he checked out, say, the first-year philosophy course on his university, they have a section devoted to arguments for and against God. So there are reasons on the table. And once the reasons are on the table, then the onus is on the atheist then to respond to those reasons. Now, they don't necessarily have to disprove the thing. They just have to show that it's less likely than not, or basically the reason doesn't carry enough weight in the face of other evidence that he might put forward. So it's still more probable to believe whatever side you want. But then the second line in this comment here, but then you demand that science has to prove beyond doubt that evolution is true. Well, no, actually not. I would never demand that of anything of science. Science, in fact, does not prove anything. Like, the word proof is badly used a lot of times in the general population. In science, what we do is we see something, or there's something going on in nature, and we come up with a possible explanation, maybe a hypothesis. And then with that hypothesis, we then say, well, let's test that. And then we come up with maybe an experiment to test that hypothesis out. You can even have evidence in favor of the hypothesis. So in science, a lot of times you'll have competing hypotheses, and there is evidence that supports either one. So how do you determine which one to go with? Well, that's where the experiment comes in, and each of them makes predictions, and you do your experiment and you see if those predictions are falsified or verified. Falsification is very important. So verifying, coming up with evidence for something doesn't necessarily mean the theory is true, because it can also support the other theories that are competing to it. But falsification does eliminate it. So you could have all sorts of evidence that I robbed the bank yesterday because somebody found some of my hairs in the bank, and various evidence that would support that. But the fact of the matter is I was here, like 13 kilometers away from the bank at the time it was supposed to be. So if I can prove that, it essentially, even though there's evidence to support that I was at least in the bank at some time, and therefore maybe I was there when it was robbed, the falsification prediction says, well, if we could predict that if he actually did the bank, we will not find him somewhere else at the time. And here, further investigation finds out, no, I was here. I was actually in a meeting. I'm talking with people. They can see me. They got the timestamp. So that falsifies the theory, despite the fact that there was evidence in favor of it. And this is how science works. You can verify a hypothesis, but verification is not proof. All verification means is you did the experiment and you got maybe, and the predictions were verified. So it has not been falsified. So in science, we often say the hypothesis or the theory has lived to see another day. And the more often you can test it, the more confident you become in it. So when he says you demand that science has to prove beyond doubt that evolution is true, no, I would never say that. All we have to do is see if it's reproducible. There are certain aspects for any theory or hypothesis. If it's not testable and reproducible, then we got a problem. We got a major problem. We have to withhold our confidence in that theory.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's impossible. It just means we cannot say it's science fact.
Exactly.
Or even a, we just can't give it that fact.
In fact, we might want
a theory.
Yeah. In fact, the just a theory. No, that I don't say that phrase, because nowadays it's just a theory. Really doesn't, like, people react against that. Besides being a theory, there's lots of theories in science. We don't write them off because they're just a theory. We have to decide if they're science or not.